Why would you not include poultry? He says, well, the original dataset didn't have unprocessed poultry. Well, don't use that dataset then. Certainly don't use that data to support a claim that the US actually eats less meat than the global average. This is incorrect. Okay, so I just got in. It's 11 o'clock at night. I was looking forward to getting to bed, but I saw some fresh content on LinkedIn and I couldn't resist. Beal posts, think Americans eat the most meat? Think again. The US actually eats less meat than the global average, less than Europe, Latin America, and East Asia. Links to a paper that he is the lead author of. And the funny thing about this particular chart, underlying the claim that the US eats less meat than the global average, here's the US, here's the global average, and we've got the meat in yellow and red here. You can see unprocessed red meat, processed meat, seafood, eggs, milk, cheese, yogurt. Unprocessed red meat, processed meat. This graph does not include unprocessed poultry. And he's posted it along with the claim that the US actually eats less meat than the global average. This graph does not include unprocessed poultry. Someone has pointed this out in the comments. This is such an odd graph, says Liam McGrath. There are regions of the world like Latin America and Caribbean, no explanation of what countries fall into that, individual countries, Mozambique and US, and then based on demographic, high-income countries. Yeah, that is a weird grouping. And then in the paper, it notes that it is excluding unprocessed poultry meat. In 2021, 68 pounds of chicken per person were available for human consumption on a bonus edible basis, compared with 56 pounds of beef. So how would that look if poultry was added in? I commented, does this really not include unprocessed poultry? Why? Beal commented, processed poultry is included in processed meat. Unprocessed poultry was excluded, unfortunately, in the original global dietary database. I said, okay, but then it's probably not the case that the US eats less meat than the global average, right? Certainly this data doesn't support that claim. And I thought this data certainly exists. I've seen graphs comparing meat consumption across different countries. I went and found one on Our World and Data. I used the same kind of groupings that Beal's paper used, and sure enough, there's the US, 144 kilograms per person in 2022, compared to 64 kilograms, the global average. 144 compared to 64. It's more than double. And notice as well, what's the largest group of meat in the US? It's poultry. It makes up over a third of all of the meat consumed in the US. And way more than any other country, by the way. Look at this. Some of the other comparisons being made were to countries that consume a fraction of the amount of poultry that is consumed in the US. Why would you not include poultry? He says, well, the original dataset didn't have unprocessed poultry. Well, don't use that dataset then. Certainly don't use that data to support a claim that the US actually eats less meat than the global average. This is incorrect. So I've commented this graph. I said, bruh. Commented a link. Beal replied, that's food availability data, not intakes. There's a lot of food waste in the US. I don't want to get into asking if we have any reason to believe that there's more food waste in the US than elsewhere. I think that there probably is, if I had to guess, but I'd just be interested to know if he has any data for that point. But in any case, it's a silly point, right? Firstly, for any kind of environmental analysis, food available is going to be the relevant thing. right? You don't get to say the US doesn't need to reduce our meat consumption because actually we're less than the global average, not including all of the meat that we waste. You still need to consume and produce less meat, right? You still need to purchase less meat. So I said, so you agree that the US buys more than 2x the global average of meat? They just throw a lot of it away. In any case, mine includes chicken and yours doesn't. And then I've reiterated here, do you hold the position that the US consumes less meat than the global average? That is his claim in this post 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. Let's see if he stands by that claim now that I've posted counter evidence and asked him if that is his position very clearly. Let's see. I've commented here, why would you not include chicken? 3 people have liked this already. Oh my goodness. This guy's cooked. Someone's commented, that's a surprising stat. I always assumed the US was a top meat consumer. Do you think this shift is influenced by health trends or is there something else at play here? Someone's just replied, do you consider chicken meat? Because we eat a lot more chicken than red meat, pork, because chicken wasn't included in that graph. Yeah, I'm going to post my graph here as well. If you do think chicken is meat, think Americans eat the most meat? You're right. Good. We posted the correct version. Hopefully our buddy sees that. So if Beal feels comfortable to post his data, which doesn't include unprocessed poultry, when poultry is making up almost a third of the meat consumed in the US, with the claim that the US eats less meat than the global average, then I certainly feel comfortable to post the reverse claim with this data, even though it's not accounting for food waste. Well, this is my last chance to look at this post, because I have now been blocked by Beal. He will have deleted my graph showing that he's incorrect, and my comments asking him, given that he hasn't provided any evidence that the US wastes more food and that his data failed to include unprocessed poultry, which is the most common type of meat consumed in the US, does he actually hold the position that the US consumes less meat than the global average? And he has blocked me without responding to that. I would really like to know if Beal holds this position. When I click through to his name, I get a 404 now. So it'd be great if people can share this with him. Ideally, I'd like to have a conversation with him and see if he holds the belief that the US consumes less meat than the global average. Unfortunately, I'm blocked now, but that was a very straightforward question, so very fragile, very, very fragile.